Hi
Hello.
everyone. Hi everyone out on YouTube and Facebook. We're gonna let folks into the Zoom room here as well. Hey folks on Zoom, good to have you here. This is Piano Tech Radio Hour. We'll get the show started momentarily. Happy MLK weekend. We enjoying a nice long day and celebrating the memory of Martin Luther King. I will give you some context to the program here. If you're just joining us for the first time out there on the socials, you can always look in the chat for a way to join our Zoom call directly if you'd like. This is Piano Tech Radio Hour, and what we do is gather here every Saturday to meet with and learn from the most fascinating and knowledgeable folks in the piano world. That includes manufacturers, rebuilders, musicians, makers of other instruments, and of course, piano techs. Our mutual goal is to become better at our craft, to help each other, and to create an ever more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. You can also subscribe to Radio Hour, just 16 bucks a month. You get direct access to each week's private Zoom call, as well as all the archival recordings of over 200 episodes in our member area. You can join using the link bit.ly/join PTRH. That's bit.ly/join PTRH. And don't forget about the podcast at pianotechradio.com that has audio only versions of the show program. We've been popular all over the world. Also, check out our Substack with blog posts, our socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and get on our email list at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com to send your name and email, and you'll get updated about upcoming events and opportunities. What I'd like to do right now is introduce our guest for the day, Roger Glenn, often described as Ingredient X. Roger Glenn has contributed to more than 40 albums across jazz, Latin jazz, blues, and funk. He has performed and recorded with artists including Cal Tjader, Herbie Mann, Dizzy Gillespie, Mary Lou Williams, Mongo Santamaria, and Donald Byrd, moving fluidly between flute, vibes, saxophone, marimba, and more. His recent release, My Latin Heart, marks his first new album in 4 decades, a deeply personal collection of original music drawing from Afro-Cuban and Afro-Brazilian rhythms. Music runs deep in his lineage as well, with his father, Tyree Glenn, having performed alongside Cab Calloway, Duke Ellington, and great Louis Armstrong. Roger Glenn, welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour.
It's an honor to be here today. Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, just before the program, we were talking about your location in the world, which is, I think, actually one of my favorites. This is Pacifica, California. Nice little coastal town, kind of quiet. Um, but the ocean is just so beautiful there. And it's like a nice little stop outside of San Francisco, right?
Correct. Correct.
And how long have you been there?
I've been here now about 12 years.
Okay. Okay. Were you close before that, or was this a
Yeah,
move?
let me give you a little history. I was born in Manhattan,
Hmm.
lived in the Bronx, then we moved to Englewood, New Jersey, my parents. And then growing up and performing, when I first started working with one guy, Mongo Santamaria, we would come out here to California to play, and really loved it. So what had happened was I came out again on a vacation. Some friends of mine who lived here in San Francisco, and we went to the place where I was playing at before Caesar's Latin Palace, it was called. And he asked me what I was doing here. So I was just hanging out, and he offered me a job here, and so I stayed and realized I didn't have to shovel snow, just
Nice.
ski on it.
A job, like a regular job there where you
Right,
stay
yeah.
stationary job?
No, it was performing at his club.
Okay.
Uh, it was basically though it was more like dancing. People, going there dancing. Definitely salsa, Latin music.
Wonderful. By the way, you're wondering if your brother had gotten in. I just saw Tyree join the Zoom. So hello, brother.
Oh, my
Welcome to the
brother's here.
program.
Great, great.
Brother's here.
Finally got you
Um,
worked out.
so yeah, I think a nice thing to do up front here, maybe is just get us into a little bit of your music. So what do you think about the LA Jazz Society recording as something to start off with? Does that sound like a good first look or
Yeah,
listen?
yeah.
Yeah, let's play a little bit. We'll get some context and then we'll jump back in and have a little bit more conversation.
Yeah, it was a little
So,
Avalon on that. Was the name of the song.
okay, perfect. All right, so share that, share the sound, optimize for video, and then just let me know if you have any sound issues, but this should be working out fine. Here we go.
Thank you.
Where's the location of that again?
That was down in Los Angeles last year, 2025 in May.
Okay, very cool. So you had to travel a little bit to LA. Did you take a plane? Or you drive?
No, I drove down there. Was called, they were honoring me for the Vibe Summit that year. As a matter of fact, I think is it on the other side here? This is what they gave me.
Ah, very nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Very
Every
cool.
they honor a Vibus of the year, and so
Hmm.
that was me. And yeah, drove down there because I want to spend some time. Also, stopped by Terry Gibbs, very famous Vibus, at
Hmm.
his house, and we had lunch together and stuff. Just wanted to be able to maneuver around the city.
Hmm. So tell me about your the various instruments. So you play the vibes, but you're
Yes.
also playing other instruments. What's been the progression of your involvement in with other instruments?
Well, when, like I said, I was born in Manhattan, lived in the Bronx, and then later on moved to Englewood, New Jersey, and it was around fourth grade. They had a thing where instrument night, would you like to play an instrument? And at the time I said, yes, I'd like to play flute. They would have they have all these instruments there, and you'd play them and say, which one do you like? And so I said, yeah, I want to play flute. And the guy leaned down and said, we have enough flute players. Why don't you go by the clarinet section? So I said, oh, okay. So I went, started playing clarinet formally, and later on, my father bought me a flute. The vibes were always around the house, though. There's a picture of me. I mean, used to have them next to the crib, so the vibes were always there. But formal instruction and stuff like that was clarinet, and then flute. And my brother, my older brother, who's on this also, he plays saxophone, and so later on, I started playing sax also. Um,
Okay.
you know, but now I play all the saxes. I have a baritone sax that I played when I was one gig I did a tour with the Count Basie Orchestra in which I played baritone sax there, and I have baritone, tenor, alto, soprano saxophones,
Hmm. Very
and
cool.
clarinet, bass clarinet, piccolo flute, piccolo C flute, alto flute, bass flute, clarinet, bass clarinet, oboe, many various Latin percussion hand instruments, uh, from cabasa to campana to some Brazilian instruments as well. Uh,
Question is, can you dance?
oh, I love to dance.
Yes. Yeah, you
I
can
love
do
to
the.
dance. As a matter of fact, this latest recording, my Latin Heart, um, I have dancing in mind. But yeah, no, I as far as Latin dancing, yeah, mambo, cha cha. Um, I always tell people, like when you hear a what is it from Dominican Republic? Da 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 da. I'm trying to think of the type of music that is.
I can't think of it either.
But anyway, I say it's really, when you ask somebody a merengue, if you want to
Uh-huh.
dance a merengue, and they say, well, I don't know. I said that one's real easy because it's just left, right. Like walking down the street. Da 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 da. Mambos and cha-chas may be a little bit more involved, but that's it's doable. Brazilian music, samba, stuff like that. But yeah,
So you lived through a very interesting period and got steeped in this, right? This was especially, I mean, actually, what year were you born? And you were in the Bronx, right?
yes.
Okay.
Uh, well, 1945.
1945. Okay. So it's not my brother. My father came from the Bronx as well,
Ah,
and Clinton DeWitt High School for the boys.
yeah,
I don't know if you've heard of
yeah.
that
Oh, yeah,
school.
yeah.
Um, and additionally, actually, I should connect you. We have an audience member and friend of the program. His name's Larry Lobel. He lives up there in the Sonoma area, and he went
Mm.
to Sonoma State University. He's also from the Bronx and actually ended up going to high school. Not ended up, but it turned out that he went to the same high school as my father up there in the Bronx. Um, that's a little bit of a side note, but I know from my father's experiences, he got into salsa and Eddie Palmieri and you know and the various the various personalities that came kind of to the New York scene, right? In
Oh, yeah, very popular
in
in the
those times.
50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Well, you know how it really happened was, like I said, my older brother. On a side note, by the way, he went to uh, Morris High School also,
Okay. Okay.
uh, but we lived on 168th and 10th Avenue in the
Okay.
Bronx. Um, and I went to PS 63, so I was in elementary school when we moved But how did I got my brother has his own band. He had a band very famous in New York,
Mm.
Tyree Glenn and the Fabulous Imperials, and they used to play at
Ooh, that's a good
Peppermint
name.
Lounge. Peppermint Lounge in New York, and Trudy Heller's. When he was at the Peppermint Lounge, I think Goldie Hawn was a go-go dancer there. But
Nice.
so anyway, my brother was very popular in New York, and he got a gig in the Catskills, playing at the Raleigh Hotel, and for a summer gig, and he was able to get me a gig there as the light person working the spotlight
Ooh.
for the shows in the evening. So it was there in the summer, and while I was staying there, they had a Latin band that would be playing at the poolside called La Plata Sextet. And so I'm like really into this Latin music stuff, and I would sit in with them. But also, that's where I learned how to dance
Mm.
because everybody would, were dancing. So I learned how to dance to a mambo, a cha cha, and stuff like that. Uh, but yeah, it was the Catskills at the Raleigh Hotel.
What
And
an incredible time. Yeah, very historical. Um, Also reminds me, I've made a visit to Montauk. Have you ever been in the I think it's just called the Montauk Hotel. Have you ever been there?
no,
Okay.
this is up in no, there was the Concord. That
Yeah.
was actually at the time very famous person, Bill Graham, who produced a lot of major concerts in the San Francisco Bay Area. Bill Graham, he was also producing Santana as well as other people. But Bill Graham was a busboy at, at the Concord Hotel, and so I think that's also how he got involved with the music, because I remember seeing when I was out here, and Bill used to come to Caesars where I used to play, and he would like to dance, because it was mainly a dancing thing. And he started to bring over some Latin bands from New York, and Bill invited me over to hear them and stuff like that, because he knew we're we're all New Yorkers.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely it's a moment in history, a very pivotal time in musical history.
Yeah, well,
Um,
New York also was, the Palladium where Tito Puente played, in which I used to do recordings for commercials with Tito Puente and Charlie Palmieri. I mean Eddie Palmieri,
Eddie, yeah,
Eddie, his brother. And recently, by the way, I just did a concert here in San Francisco at SF Jazz with Tito's son, Tito Puente Jr. We performed at SF Jazz together.
very cool. All right, let's check out another recording here. Let's see what else I got queued up. So I have this other one, Congo Square.
Yes,
Should we check that one out now? Ready
right.
for that?
Would you like me to prep what we're
Yeah,
listening
go
to?
for it. Just talk. I'll load it up. You can keep talking and just let me know when to press play. Yeah.
Yeah, this is an original composition of mine. When I was in New Orleans, when I was working with Taj, and I heard about Congo Square, and I went there. Congo Square was where the slaves were able to play their music on a Sunday. This is obviously a long time ago, and in doing that, I feel that that's the basis of our cultures coming together, African culture and European culture coming together and creating the music of the United States. And when you look at things throughout the Americas, you see the main initial influences of African and European influences in terms of the music that we love today. I mean, in Brazil, it was slaves were coming in from areas, gosh, Angola, places like that. Nigeria, slaves coming from Nigeria, and European, like in Brazil, Portuguese. In Cuba, it's mainly Spain and Nigerian. And so you look at all of these different cultures coming together. We're not talking about slavery in itself, but the fact of human beings coming together and what they create. So this song, Congo Square, to me is represents the introduction of these two cultures coming together in the United States. So it has a classical feel to it, as well as a African 6/8 rhythm on it. So you'll hear the melody, which is a European type feel, and then a percussion comes in playing a 6/8 rhythm, and how these things blend together and create the music I call Congo Square.
All right. Let's take a listen.
During the times of slavery for Africans in the United States, slaves in New Orleans, Louisiana were permitted to gather, play their drums, and dance only on Sundays in an area known as Congo Square. As the African rhythms and dance were celebrated there, a convergence of cultures began with European cultural expressions, which later developed into the Mardi Gras Indian traditions, New Orleans' second line, and eventually American jazz, rhythm and blues, and Latin jazz. This composition of mine called Congo Square takes you on a celebrated journey of these cultures coming together.
love that. Thank you. Thank you for
Oh, thank you.
sharing.
By the way, I want to mention that that video, that music video, is an award-winning video. I submitted it to various film festivals in which it has won an award, composition or the film itself. And also, I want to mention how we put it together. People who were involved in it, Bob Ciano, who used to do album covers for CTI Records, as well as very creative person who did the artwork, and also I, of course, my other half, Beth Brand, who was really inspirational in putting all this together. And the album now is out in Patois Records, and I got to thank also Unity Music Foundation for making all of this possible as well.
Yeah, well done. I have visited New Orleans a handful of times, maybe three or four max. But I like what you brought forth about the spirit of the culture and the ambiance there. I always feel like it feels, especially if you've studied jazz music, it feels like you're living history when you're in New Orleans, and you're living that kind of
The roots of our music here in the United States, yeah,
yeah.
a major influence, in terms of jazz that eventually, you know, that when you really get down to the basics of European culture and African culture and how they blend together in the art forms of music that we hear today, you know, they have these roots, major influences, let alone indigenous people who have contributed to this uh, thing we call the United States of America. And when you look at the other countries, the major influences of Spain and Nigerian influences, Senegalese influences, in South America, you know, it may you see these human expressions through these various cultures that have impacted in terms of loving music. It could go on and on. I mean, Middle Eastern influences. You listen to Dave Brubeck and his influences of coming from a jazz perspective, but in introducing Middle Eastern stuff. Blue Rondo, Al Turk, for example, that particular album where he was exposed to um, Middle Eastern cultures. You hear that in Indian music, you hear that in Japanese music, Chinese music. An interesting thing I noticed also, like there's a um, example, the song "Amazing Grace." You look that up. "Amazing Grace." It says lyrics by James Newton, melody traditional, um, and it is alleged that James Newton was a slave ship captain, heard this music of the slaves in the passage bringing them to the Americas, um, in which he later repented about being in a slaver, exactly. But he heard this melody that the slaves were singing on the ship on the way there, and it makes sense. He wrote the lyrics, "Amazing Grace, how sweet it was. I once was lost and now I'm saved." And that melody is a pentatonic scale, a 5-note scale, which you hear in a lot of human cultures. That ba do da do da do da do da do da, 5 notes. Da da do da do da do da 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 do da do da. So you hear that 5-note thing. Now let me put it on a planetary scale. Um, Korean music, there's a song called Arirang. Ba di da do da do 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 da do 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 da do 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 da do 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 da do 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 da do do do. Pentatonic scale, human expressions. You hear that in a lot of cultures. These, it's cultures, but the basics, the inspiration of these cultures are our DNA is takes us to this pentatonic scale that you hear in African culture. You hear it in many other cultures. The difference here in the United States, the blending of that pentatonic scale, the African side, with a European side of a chromatic scale introduced in terms of these cultures, how they develop rhythmically, how these things developed. When you look at the overall thing, it is human expressions through the arts. We're not different. Only difference is we may speak another language, but our basic DNA creates the results that you're hearing musically. No one has uh, a how can I put it, a majority, I own this. We all own it because this is who we are as human beings.
Yeah. This and of course this program here, a lot of the people who listen are piano tuners. That's how we started out. The pentatonic scale is interesting because it is also the a set of notes that fall within fourths and fifths of each other, right?
Yeah,
If you take the fourths and you go up 5 notes and then you put them all in a little scale, that's your pentatonic. It's a very basic structure that you might use as you start to tune the temperament of a piano even. Um, but yeah, it's very natural and organic. Um, I'm curious, maybe we should, let's see, we had another recording. Should we listen to another thing from your album, or did you want to listen to something from the Cal Tjader one that you mentioned? What would you
from
prefer?
my album,
Yeah.
yeah, I would. We were talking about
Y-
Cal's. Um, oh,
s-
I'm trying to think.
So here we have, what's the name of the album that you wanted to check something out from?
Mambo's Mambo on
Okay.
my Latin heart.
Sambo's Mambo.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is this is the album by
Okay.
the and you can see it there. But yeah, this is the CD, which is going to be coming out shortly in vinyl.
Oh,
Uh, but yeah, it was the first composition, Cal Tjader, which uh, that I recorded. I mean, Zombo's Mambo, that I recorded. Um, that's me playing flute.
okay. And so we're listening to the track called Zambo's Mambo, right? Or a different
Yes.
track. Okay. All right, let me get this sound shared. And this will be audio only, of course, but gotta listen to that. Share. And we'll go to computer audio. Should do the trick. All right, let's see if this works. Let me know if it comes through or not.
By the way, while you're doing that, the members of the band were David K. Matthews on piano, David Belove on bass, Paul van Hognegen on drums, Derek Rolando on percussion, John Santos, Michael Spiro, and percussionist and singing, and the guy who I worked with closely. We've been working together for years on guitar and was co-producing with me and recording engineer was Ray Oviedo.
All right. Let's take a listen. Very nice.
As I can see observing you, it's
Uh,
difficult.
yeah, if I knew the moves, I'd get up and get up and dance. Yeah, definitely. You've got the. You said this particular album, you had it
It's about
focus on danceability. Yeah.
yes.
Yes, yes. I hear that for sure. Wow, yeah, that's nice. And very nice flute playing for sure.
Thank you.
How do you, it's interesting to think about translating between these different instruments. And do you find yourself playing certain vocabulary that overlaps across the instruments and then certain vocabulary that stays on the instrument? Does that make sense as a question?
Well, yeah, when I'm have a song in my head, I sort of relate that to a certain instrument.
Hmm.
And so that's basically my motivation in regards to what type of instrument fits this particular song in my head.
And in terms of practicing these instruments, um, do you find yourself, like people practice like a lick or or like a musical idea? Do you find yourself, I don't know if you just are performing so much or sort of playing so much throughout your life that practicing and just woodshedding doesn't come as much, or do you find yourself going, all right, I'm gonna work this out on the flute, and now I'm gonna go over and work this out on the vibes, and now I'm gonna work over and work the same thing out on a different instrument, or are they sort of more independent?
Uh, well, like I said, a song comes into my head. What do I feel
Hmm.
that it fits in? What type of instrument, and I go from there. But the
Hmm.
main thing about jazz and Latin jazz is it is a collaborative music form that you really need to be
Hmm.
inspired by what everybody else brings to it. I mean, I can lay down, this is the melody, this is the basic chord changes that I'm thinking about in this, and we get together and see how that mixes together. Um, but there are basic things, like people say, how do you practice for jazz?
Hmm.
Uh, you know, scales, major, minor scales, diminished scales, whole tone scales, stuff like that. But basically, what you're trying to do with the instrument that you're playing is that it is an extension of how you think. So it's from the mind to the hand, and that muscle memory kicks in. Of I hear a note, I hear an interval. What is that interval? Developing your ear in terms of stuff. What does a minor second sound like, a major second, a third, a fourth? How do you play, a major seventh? A funny thing that I tell people sometimes is pick, because we're dealing with 12 tones in a chromatic scale, our chromatic scale. I say, pick a song that has those intervals. Like for instance, what is a fourth? Uh, da 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 da. That's a fourth. The shadow of your smile. Da 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 da. What is a major seventh? Well, you know what an octave, ba da la la. Now you just go down a half step, da da, valley high, da 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 da. So these are learning things that people can work on, so that their muscle memory kicks into where those notes fit that you're thinking about. And so it's those kinds of things, how you practice internally to be able to play, ultimately to play what you think. That's what it's all about, especially in jazz, and as a basis, because that's culturally also, that is more so on the African side of our culture and American culture, where it's being in the moment. How do you be in the moment? The other side of that is the written language side is on the European side, plan ahead as opposed to being on the uh, into the moment. Um, so it's a written language versus an oral tradition, and how those things come together to create the music that we all love and love to hear in this country and various other places. It couldn't have been created in Africa. It couldn't have been created in Europe. It took both of those cultures initially to come together to create the music that we have. I mean, the chord progressions that we use in rock and roll, 1-4-5-4-1 chord progressions. Johann Sebastian Bach created that chord progression. You know, there's some when you look at the what are the origins of what we play and what we listen to, and you see in this particular instance how those two uh, uh, groups created the music that we listen to and play today, and let alone what has been influenced also by music from Asia, music from indigenous people here. Like my songs, by the way, that one was Zombo's Mambo, and you look up who were Zombos, slaves who got away from in the United States got away from their uh, slaveholders and got together with Native Americans. So it's human exchanges of stuff that there's a message of what I talk about my songs. Cal's Zombo's Mambo, Cal's Wahida tribute uh, that of Cal, but with a Cuban feel of a Wahida. Brother Marshall was based off of a guy who passed away, and I dedicate that song to all the teachers because we played for his funeral, and there were a lot of musicians who got inspired to play music through him. He was a high school music teacher that inspired them to play. So there's that. A night of love that goes without saying. A night of love. Energizer, just the energy that's involved in it, but also the fact that you listen to it musically, and it goes into a second part that involves bata drums and stuff like that. Congo Square, I talked about what Congo Square was about. Angola, talking about the music from influence of Angolan music. And also I talk about Angola here in the United States, the Angola prison, I dedicate that to. That was originally a plantation that had Angola slaves they were raising in terms of slavery. And finally, Samba de Carnaval, which is Brazilian. That I always loved Brazilian music. Had an opportunity initially to go down to Brazil with Dizzy Gillespie, and we played in various places there, and um, I stayed for a month afterwards, just hanging out and getting a sense of carnival, what was happening, where you just can't drive a car anymore because the streets are crowded with people, and not in necessarily in this album, but I also, when we went down there, we went to Argentina, so I got a sense of tango music and understanding that influence, Italians and was a main influencers in regards to that. Brazil, they speak Portuguese influence in African music. It's there's all of these things. Spain and Africa, Northern European and African in this country. Music of the Americas.
Yeah, I gotta introduce you to Chano Dominguez. Do you know Chano Dominguez? He's from Spain and
Mm.
he does flamenco jazz piano.
Yeah.
Very interesting combination as well. Um, well, we're about at the end of the hour here. It's been a privilege to be able to meet with you and speak with you. And of course, thank you so much for taking the the time and effort to put this new release together. Yeah, we got a message here from Day Stewart. He says, "Very nice, Roger." So I gotta pull it up here. Keep swinging. Thank you. Do you know
Keep
Day by
this
chance?
alive.
Do you know
Huh?
Day? Do you know Day? I believe
I,
Day is out there in Los Angeles. So.
I probably, I mean,
We'll have to make some introductions. So, and then the recording studio, I looked it up. That's right around the corner of you. It's called Reference Recordings. It's on
uh,
Crespi Drive, I believe. Just right over by that coffee shop we were talking about before we started. Um, but yeah, so usually we take a minute before we sign off. Any last minute words of wisdom or things you want to share about, of course, your album and anything on the web, before I do our outro? Anything you want to share?
well, I look forward to being able to travel and perform in various places around the world. I mean, we're doing this interview, but I mean, I've done interviews from all over. I mean, it's amazing how this album has been appreciated. You know, in Europe, in Paris, in Turkey, in Australia, New Zealand. Um, and it's also on the jazz charts. By the way, it's the past 19 weeks. Jazz Week chart is in the top 20. Been like that for the past 19 weeks. Last 2 weeks it was at number 14. So I'm happy with that, knowing that it is being appreciated.
Gonna force you to put out another album.
Oh yeah, definitely. But what helps with that is also that people are able to buy another album.
Gotta
You know,
buy it.
we live in an age where everything is so free to download and stuff like that. So it's
Yeah.
in a way an album is like a calling card. You know, this is who I am. It would be nice if you were able to work it out where you live to have me come out and perform. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, you know, that pays the rent or the mortgage or whatever.
Did you have you ever heard of a pianist called Dave Kikoski? Dave Kikoski. He's really great. He's a New York guy. Um, kind of got a little bit of that McCoy Tyner type of vibe.
I knew
But
McCoy.
yeah,
Yeah.
did you play together?
No, we never really played together, played opposite each other.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. You know, growing up around New York, you know, I could go on with the people who I've known. You know, I've been like the fly on the wall. You know, obviously Duke Ellington and Louis Armstrong. You know, being around them, growing up. I mean, we had a party once at our house with Louis was there, and I was tired. I went to bed, and then when I came downstairs, there was Louis stretched out on the couch. They'd partied all night long. You know, but as far as the history of jazz and people like the Great Day in Harlem picture of all those musicians. My father asked me, did I want to go there? I said, no, those are your friends. I'd rather go and hang out.
Like
And
on that day, yes, if you
yeah,
wanted to go,
yeah.
but if and you decided not to.
And little did I know that later on I would be playing with a lot of those people, you know. So
Sure, sure.
so I met them. My father went did the first Aretha Franklin recording in New York, and my brother and I went to watch the recording with John Hammond, who was producing it. And they had asked a funny thing. They had asked my brother, because Aretha was around the same age as my brother, and they asked him, you know, she's new in town. Could you show her around? And my brother said, "Well, no, I got to play some basketball. You know, I can't do that at this time." And every time he'd run into Aretha, she would say, "Well, so how's the basketball coming along?" But also just
Very
working with a
important
lot of
basketball.
people. Mary Lou Williams, the first recording I ever did, you know, her piece through music, which I think was really appropriate to what music really is about. You know, just reaching people and you know,
We got another comment in here from your brother. He said, "Great interview. Love from your brother here, Tyree."
uh,
Tyree said something.
mm,
Um, well, We usually keep it at about an hour. So I am gonna sign us off now, but we'll keep in touch and maybe we'll bring you out to Chicago where I'm at and do a show. That'd be fun.
Love to.
Um, Yeah, we'll keep in touch about it. I'll sign off everybody. If you actually want to just jump back on the Zoom, you and I can do a quick wrap up afterwards. But I'll do the outro and then we'll end the call and you can jump back on. Okay, everyone, we have reached the end of another musical journey here at Piano Tech Radio Hour. Of course, thank you for Roger Glenn joining us today. As always, we're brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, cutting edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. If you joined us today by signing for this session individually, you can make your life more convenient. You could subscribe to Piano Tech Radio Hour. It's just $16 a month to get the recording of today's session in our member area, as well as automatic registration for each week's new session. Sign up at bit.ly/join PTRH, bit.ly/join PTRH. Don't forget about the podcast, audio only version of the show, the blog on Substack. Check out the socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Sign up for our email list at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. Happy holiday weekend celebrating Martin Luther King, and we will see you again